Heavyweight update for this week. Now, I've missed quite a few weeks of heavyweight action, and some of this is going to be catch up. However, I'll proceed with the heavyweight update. So, Sergey Kuzmin, who is a prospect, and he's 11-0-1 now, he drew Amir Mansour, and that was due to a head clash which resulted in both of them getting head injuries, and that happened in the third round. Amir Mansour looked to be on the back foot for that fight, and I think that Amir Mansour, for some reason, didn't want to let his hands go. Perhaps his reasoning for not being on the front foot more, which I've seen him do more. I've seen him more on the front foot than on the back foot. Perhaps his reasoning was he didn't want to use up too much energy, and that is because he was fighting in Russia, and perhaps he didn't have notice. However, I think he should have put his impression on the fight and be more aggressive. Now, a rematch is needed for that. I want to see that. I want to see the rematch made, and I want to see those two fight. And if that rematch is made, I would be picking Sergey Kuzmin to win this fight, and probably by stoppage as well. I think that Amir Mansour could have fought on against Dominic Brazil, and there comes a time where one has to fight, and it doesn't matter what injuries are there, one has to fight. And Amir Mansour did not do that against Dominic Brazil in a fight that he was winning. So if he's going to do that in a fight he's winning, if he's in a fight that he perhaps is losing, what's he going to do? Now, I would like for Amir Mansour to prove me wrong. And, I'd like Amir Mansour to prove me wrong. But that's my analysis on with regards to Sergey Kuzmin vs Amir Mansour. I think that Sergey Kuzmin will win that fight. Now, moving on from that, Simon Kean, who's a heavyweight prospect that I've been watching, on the 16th of the 12th, and let me just quickly go back. Sergey Kuzmin vs Mansour occurred on the 27th of the 11th of November. Now, moving back to Simon Kean on the 16th of the 12th, following from his victory against Randy Johnson in the second round, he picked up another consecutive second round victory against Mike Shepard. And Simon Kean is a heavyweight prospect I'm watching. He looks to have a jab, and I don't think he has the most power, but he could do something. I think his main weapon is his jab. He's 6'5", perhaps his reach is long, and I want to see how he progresses. He looked quite muscular against Randy Johnson, so perhaps if he's got a lot of power, if he's got power in his jab, perhaps he's put on the muscle to increase the power. If he can develop a solid jab at 6'5", and he can keep opponents at distance, perhaps he could get into the top 20, maybe further than that. Now, George Arias, who really struggled in his last fight against, I forgot the guy's name, I think it was Mario Heredia. George Arias really did struggle in that fight, but got the victory. I noted that things that were holding him back in that fight were perhaps, I would say, I would probably say that what he struggled with in that fight was the size of Heredia. I believe Heredia weighed in for that fight at around 288 pounds. George Arias is a small heavyweight in terms of his height. I think he looks to me about 5'9", and his weight, he's not a big heavyweight. So George Arias looked to struggle with the size of Heredia. Even though Heredia wasn't muscular, he looked to struggle with the natural size. So that perhaps is ominous for further fights, that George Arias takes, because if George Arias wants to be a top 20, perhaps a top 10 heavyweight, or if George Arias is going to be a top 20 or a top 10 heavyweight, he should aim to be the best. He should be aiming to be the best, and I hope that he is. But if he's going to be a top 20 or top 10 or top 5 or the best heavyweight, it's likely that he's going to come up against a heavyweight that's big. So hopefully that's not ominous, but he looked to struggle with the size of Heredia, and Heredia seemed to be putting him on the back foot. George Arias is predominantly a front foot fighter, and Heredia, his size, the fact that Heredia was putting Arias on the back foot looked to take away some of the weapons that George Arias has. So that was a concern. However, George Arias bounced back and got a second round KO against Joanne Godey, and that occurred on the 14th of the 12th. Now, Adrian Granat, who got knocked out against Alexander Demichenko in the first round, and he notably gave up in that fight. He dropped, got up, didn't know how to survive, took consecutive punches, and when he got dropped the second time, he got up straight after the countered finish, and that showed to me that he gave up. Now, I believe in giving fighters a second chance. So I think that, for example, Izu Gono as well, who could have got up, I think that people deserve a second chance. So I'm looking at Adrian Granat and saying, I'll give him a second chance. He's facing Araukli Given a Taxi. I don't, excuse me if I didn't pronounce that correctly, but that heavyweight is 9 wins, 5 losses, 0 draws, and Adrian Granat is 14 wins, 1 loss, 0 draws. I believe Adrian Granat has knocked out most of his opponents. I think that he went the distance once before he went and fought Alexander Demichenko. So I think that his KO record is 14 wins, 13 KOs in terms of his victories. So Adrian Granat's coming back, and hopefully he doesn't give up again. And, let's see how he performs in this fight against Araukli Gavenetadze. Excuse me if I didn't pronounce that correctly. I'm very sure I didn't pronounce that correctly. Now, that is an 8-rounder, and that takes place on the day that this video is released, and that's Friday the 22nd of December. Daniel Dubois is back out. I watched him against Dorian Darch, and he looked quite forceful against Dorian Darch, looked powerful. Looks a bit crabbed up, but perhaps that's his style. But he looked powerful against Dorian Darch, and he's young. He's, I think, 20 years old, so he's young. So he can improve. But he's coming back, and he's fighting next year on Saturday the 10th of February 2018. And the opponent for Daniel Dubois, I don't think they have an opponent yet, or the opponent has not been announced yet. So Daniel Dubois is back out on Saturday the 10th of February 2018, and the opponent either hasn't been chosen or isn't being announced yet. Tom Swartz, who's another prospect, he's fighting on the Saturday the 3rd of February 2018 in a 12-rounder. And Trevor Bryan, he won on Friday the 15th of December 2017 against Francis Russell, and that was a TKO in the third round of an 8-round fight. Then there's Damani Rock, who's another prospect. He picked up a first round KO over Carlos Cotto, and that was on Friday the 1st of December 2017. Jermaine Franklin on Friday, the 15th of December 2017, beat Corey Phelps, and that was a first round victory in a 10 rounder. Andy Ruiz Jr. He's fighting on Saturday, the 3rd of February 2018. And Povetkin beat Hammer in a unanimous 12 round decision, and that was on the 15th of the 12th, 2017. So there's lots of heavyweight news there. Some of it reviewed from previous, some of it is new. So those are and fights that fighters that I'm particularly looking at. I'm looking at Daniel Dubois. I'm looking at George Arias, because he's a heavyweight I like, and I think that if he can fight and be effective against bigger fighters, then he could do something with regards to getting into the top 10. And Sergey Kuzmin knocked out Joe Joyce in the amateurs. Those are fighters that I'm particularly looking at. So that's heavyweight news for this week, and I'll be back next week. Peace.